My assistant tells me this is a church in Nuremberg. More statuary, probably outside that church. That is obviously upside down. You're going to find that a lot in this box, I believe. Probably because I mounted it in a slide upside down. Just give you an idea of a really fancy, really elaborate, I guess you'd call it a bay window. It's almost like a turret. See the big buildings. Look at all the skylights.
Look at all the windows.
Oh, I mean up in the roof. Now this is you go lower it a bit. You can see the glockenspiel of dancing figures of this church. More figurines probably inside the clock tower. See if we can catch who the name is. Durer. I'm pronouncing it wrong. No, don't worry about it.
Says, yeah, Durer.
Yes.
My slide. No. 40 years later. Albrecht Durer. Now this is called Soldiers Field.
That's in Brighton.
Now if you can imagine, down there on the left side, you'll see the main grandstand. And right at the top is where the enormous swastika stood. This was the scene that is shown in so many of the old Hitler movies, of the big white stadium with 100,000 people screaming and yelling, Sieg Heil or whatever. It's still there, but the first thing they did was blow up the giant swastika. Again, it shows you the fancy statuary, unusual shaped roofs.
Is that a water tower?
Water tower, watchtower, part of a ruined castle.
They have so many windows in these places.
This is a funny style of architecture that's popular up in northern Bavaria and even up towards Frankfurt. I think this is supposed to be the arms room of the castle. Just off the dungeon. There's the narrow streets. Oh, this might be Dinkelsbühl. I've never been to Dinkelsbühl, but it's very good shots of what the walled city used to be. Every town used to have a wall around it to keep up the invading, with the gates to the wall. The wall around Munich has long since disappeared, but the gates are still standing. This is a palace garden. Just show you where the river goes right underneath the building. Again, see all those windows in the roof. Hey. Well, I don't know whether that's one enormous room or whether it's just simply successive floors of each floor. As you go higher, it gets narrow because of the taper of the roof. I really don't. Again, lower it a little bit, and you can see the onion skin steeple on the church. So obviously we're in Bavaria someplace.
Is this where the sound of music?
Now this is the Bodensee, also known as, you'll find this on your map as the Lake of Constance. It's a big enough lake, so it's got one side and Germany on the other. Ruins of an old castle. I think we're probably heading down the Rhine now. Church.
Looks like Hartley Square.
Most of these are just in here for show you the different type architecture. Now I think this might be Frankfurt. It could be some city on the Rhine, obviously. Ruined castles on the Rhine. You know anything about architecture, and I don't. See, there's a bend in the Rhine River, there's a castle. See, every time there was shallows or a bend in the river, some petty duke would build himself a castle and stick a chain or something across the river, and any boats going up or down the river would have to stop and pay a toll. There's another town, a village, onto the other side of the river with these hills that overlook bends and shallows in the river, with a castle on the Rhine. This is Bonn, I believe, at least until recently, I think it still is, the capital of Germany. And this shows the mud flats, and those long streaks on the river are ore barges, because after all, the Rhine is a wide river with very heavy traffic carrying iron ore downriver to the steel mills of the Ruhr. A couple of ruined castles. I think this one's called the Two Brothers. Nothing left. Both their castles are in ruin. Another city, town on the Rhine River. Another shot of the bending, winding Rhine River. That's almost, it's a tongue pull. Peter Piper picked a ruined castle.
You know what, honey, you should be a lecturer.
More shots on the Rhine. More Rhine shots, some village, city, whatever. Still on the Rhine River. They run tours that last 3, 4, 5 days.
Oh my word.
You know, where you just float down on an excursion steamer overnight down the Rhine River. We are experiencing technical difficulties. And I believe this is the junction of the Rhine and the Main rivers at or near Frankfurt. Here's some excursion boats. One might be a small overnighter, and in the foreground it looks like a day trip putt-putt. Now this, I think, is the famous Lorelei rock, where the beautiful maiden is supposed to have sat up there combing her hair and luring the sailors on the Rhine River to their death on the rocks below. The church. Notice there's no onion skin, so we're not in Bavaria. This is one of the barracks at Berchtesgaden up near Hitler's mountain retreat that was pretty badly bombed. At the end of the war, the British bombed the living daylights out of Berchtesgaden, thinking that some of the Hitler big shot. I don't know where we are now. I think we're still on the Rhine, back on the Rhine River again. Now these are supposed to be replicas of prehistoric huts on the Lake of Constance. Think about it. Now this is what you see from that famous shot of Neuschwanstein Castle, the one that Walt Disney stole a picture of. This is what you see when you get up there in that castle and you look out. The shadowy mountain, it is so close to the border of Austria. The shadowy mountain, the third range of mountains, the shadowy ones in the background across the top are in Austria. This is a scene inside the Mad King Ludwig of Bavaria. He nearly bankrupted his country building elaborate palaces. I believe these are shots from the simple hunting lodge, the finest alabaster, Gobelin tapestries, marble tapestry. I believe this is the marriage of Lohengrin. He's the one that financed Wagner and his German office. This is a corner of, he actually had his own private opera house in there for himself. He was very shy, had a private opera house. Even the banquet table was on an elevator, so it could be raised from the kitchen directly to the banquet hall. And he wouldn't have to see the servants. Now this is a side view, not a very pretty view, but this is the famous Neuschwanstein Castle. As I say, that Disney's artists have changed around slightly to be the Disneyland, just a cozy little nook. There's certain parts of that castle, each room has, on one floor, is made up to represent the scenes from one of the Fairyland operas. Just fancy. Those tapestries alone are worth. Here's the other end of the opera house. They would act. He got, in other words, he'd come to the king for a pre. And it's one of the beds.
King's bed.
Now this is the simple hunting lodge, the Linderhof. Very, very ornate, very beautiful. Very beautiful. That's gold leaf. This is the place that had the banquet table on the elevator. That is a solid gold piano on the right, and the peacock is an emblem of royalty. So that's a statue of a peacock on the left. At one end he has a grotto, because after all, one of the Wagner operas takes place in the as a swan boat ride. At one end is the swan boat ride, the other end is this Moorish or Turkish grotto. This is the Turkish grotto. There's a closer view of the royal peacock looking out the window at the grotto. That is that block of figures over the mantelpiece, that fireplace, is a solid block of ivory, the largest solid block of one piece of ivory ever known to man. I don't know what kind of an animal they got it out of, but again, the gold leaf, the rich, heavy tapestries, everything is gold, solid gold, not gold plated. This is painted on the ceiling. How about laying in bed and looking up at this? He was a great admirer of King Louis XIV, and so that is why the part of the garden bed is shaped like the French fleur-de-lis. And we're looking up towards the Swan Grotto. Back inside the hunting lodge, just so much ornate, gilded, whatever. You can't see it all. It's so, it gets in the way of its own swan boat, where you could go for a ride in a swan boat. This, I believe, is Dinkelsbühl, or one of the towns, wall towns of, it has a moat and it has a wall around it, unchanged since 11, 12, 13, 14. There's a guard tower on one side of the wall. Everything was inside the wall. Here's a local pageant. As you've seen, a lot of these towns, each one has their own pageant, and every year they take a day and they will costume dress up in the old. That's told over from the days of the horses. There's a fountain for the horses in the middle of this town. Out of one of these pageants, reading a royal proclamation. I think this is the one where the Prince of Bavaria married Princess Sophie of Poland. It took her 2 weeks to come by a very ornate stagecoach from Poland to southern Bavaria. It's the stagecoach in the reenactment. This is probably in Landshut, which means hat of the land. There she is. Our local girl that was beauty queen that year, that was selected to play the role of this country scene. Another character in the country scene. That might be the bridegroom, but I don't swear to it. Wedding guests. And there's another part of the royal wedding guests. People of the town wearing their special finery because they've been asked to play parts in the town's festival this year. I think that's the bride, or the matron of honor, I'm not sure which. I think that's probably the mayor of the town. The crest on his chest is, this is the Black Forest. The crest on his chest is probably the crest for the town. Every town of any size has a coat of arms or a crest of its own. Again, these are shots in the black. As you can see, in places it's not very black and it's not very forested, but there are forested areas famous for most of the real quality cuckoo clocks are made there by the wood carvers of the Black Forest. Carved, you go to the Black Forest. You want a crucifix carved, you go to Oberammergau. No conflict. Unless you're an atheist. Oh, that was a sick one. I'm sorry. We are experiencing technical difficulty. My technical assistant is getting very tired and very frustrated.
I see Joe walking through the restroom.
You're just running off time on the clock there.
The jam.
And here we are, more citizens of the town and dressed up in their finery. Some of these costumes have not changed one bit since the Middle Ages. In fact, great-grandpa, great-grandma, or maybe even further back may have worn these costumes. Just a pastoral country scene. More samples of country dress. Again, here's the fountain in the center of the square. After all, man has to give his horse, have a place to give his horse something to drink. And still, I believe, perambulating around the Black Forest. And I'm not too sure what this one is.
That name right there? Looks like, Dinkle...
Oh, this is Dinklesbuell. Okay,
Yeah.
This is the town that's got the wall around it. A walled city, village, whatever.